Founded originally in 2003 as the proving grounds for motorcycle racing, Barber has made a name for itself on the American motorsport stage. But even though it was made for action on two wheels, IndyCar has adopted this track as a major fixture on its calendar for over a decade. Tonight we'll show up to Barber here with some four-wheel action for the penultimate round of the Indy Elite Series here at Barber Motorsports Park. Hello, my name is Finn D'Acuna here with Connor Horn. Connor, I'm glad to have you back with me after some fantastic action we saw at Long Beach. Championship implications across the board for our two championship contenders, and that battle, well, it's not necessarily tightening up near the top, but it's still very close between those two.
Yeah, very tight indeed. We thought it was going to get even more tight after we saw Brandon Traino go off and have a bad pit exit that got him a penalty, but then Christian Steele, a mistake of his own in turn 8 at Long Beach, caused him to go back down the order to where Traino opened up a 45-point gap coming into the final road course of the season. This one should be fun. About 21 years old, this track is 2.38 miles, and it is very fun, very racy in the Indy cars. They've been coming here for a while in real life, and Indy Elite's going to come and roll in here to the second to last race of the season. It should be a good one.
Should be a good one here. Qualifying already underway here for these drivers, and we'll get down to the track here so we can experience the action here. Currently looking on board with Brandon Traino here out there on the track, and actually going to back out of his lap. Didn't like the way it was going. The man chasing him down, Christian Steele, he's starting his lap, going flying off into turns 1 and 2. A lot of commitment. We're trying to ride on board with him for the rest of the lap to see how he gets done.
A lot of elevation change at this track. You'll see a big uphill right here over the crest. You do not want to see a crash in front of you once you come over there on lap number 1. And then a big, tight left-hander here. He might have gone too deep. As a matter of fact, he did. Locked it up completely on the left front. That was into turn number 5. And a little short stretch into turn 6. Then you got 7, A, and B. A little chicane here. Very tight. Cannot go too wide here by any means.
No, you really can't. If you're going to go too wide, you have to give each other a lot of space. It's going to cost you a lot of time. Then through another flowing section here, really quick left-right chicane in the middle of the back straightaway. Very much also one lane, which is the story for most of this track. And then another chicane heading through the back half of the track. Down the hill, up you go over a crest. So easy to get the car light on the weight and the car spinning around the other direction if you're not careful. Through the final series of corners here, a right-hander and then a left-hander to complete the lap. Back on the front straightaway for Christian Steele, and he will come across the line. Looks like he took it maybe a little bit cautiously here because I think he's planning to push it lap 2.
Yeah, definitely push lap 2, and we see turns 1 and 2 here. There's more elevation change downhill there. It's easy to go too wide there as well. If you go too wide in that turn 1 left-hander, you're going to be not set up for turn 2, which is almost like a carousel, a winding carousel, and you'll completely kill your lap right then and there. And that might have been what Brandon Traino saw as we got Adam Blocker here tonight here in Barber. He's on one of his laps. In fact, he put the fastest lap down at 106.856, about 0.3 faster than Andreas Ike, who's currently second on the board. He is sliding the rear of that 74 car through the final set of corners. This is a second lap, gearing up for one more, but that was, I thought he was spinning. Nope, he's going to try to get a better run up for his final third lap.
Andreas Ike trying to actually pass Blocker on the track physically. We'll try to see if he can pass him on the timesheets across the line for Ike. It'll be a 106.9. Doesn't look like it will. Oh, no, it did count. He closed the gap, but is not going to be able to overtake him. Looking at Christian Steele where he is. He's coming back to the start-finish line. We'll see where the number 2 machine can end up. Again, his main eye on the ball is going to be for Brandon Traino to close that gap up to 3rd. Solid lap for him. Where is Brandon Traino? Is he out on the track again? I would imagine he is.
Yeah, he's got a third lap coming. He just put a 106.952 down, locked up in turn number 2. This is his final lap if he wants to take it. He went a little wide there. Wonder if he got the tire in the dirt. Looks like he's going to carry on regardless. Just about 0.2 faster than title rival Steele, but only 3rd on the timing sheet.
Hamilton boys, he just came across the start-finish line, did not get a lap in yet. He's still waiting for him to get on the board. Had a poor qualifying at Long Beach, but that didn't stop him taking advantage of the championship contenders having issues and put that car up for a win. Despite a relatively mediocre qualifying effort, so we'll see if he can show some more pace in the 107 cars. Traino back half of the course now. He is ahead of Christian Steele. Steele is about out of qualifying. He's done for now, so Traino just looking to see if he can get up past Ike, potentially Blocker. Less than a 10th separating the top 3.
Yeah, he's very fast on this lap. We'll see where he comes out. You got to take that corner a little bit wide. That's turn 14. You got to go wide to get the apex right. He's
off track.
Goes away, and he's going to be 3rd, which is okay, but it looked like it was going to be a lot better.
He's going to be wanting for more, though. Brian Carey working his way around.
he killed the car after.
He's probably frustrated after that because he probably knew he had a good lap going. Adam Blocker, he's retired from. Oh, actually has not. Brian Carey wipes out, though. Will end his qualifying effort. Blocker is still on his second lap. Oh, and he wipes out, too. And I got to say, this is a very common issue thing we're going to see. I was doing some practice laps in this car. It is very, very slippery on the back end with the red alternate tires. I think it's really easy to overheat them. Rayshad Craig looking to go across the line in the 21 machine. He'll go up to 5th.
Sorry, I was focusing on the 11 crashed in NASCAR, so I was a little flustered because of that. Well, you have to each their own. But yes, Rayshad Craig is on track right now. God, that flustered me. But yeah, Craig was he was solid last week, but I think he had something that took him out of a race late. But he had decent speed at Long Beach until that happened. He did end up finishing 19th, but ran pretty well. As we're seeing, he's on the red wall tire, the alternate compound. We'll see. I don't even know if we're going to see a lot of variation as far as what tires drivers are starting on. I'd be shocked to see drivers not go on the black wall.
Yeah, I don't know. It really depends here. I think you might see guys, of course, with the way
on it. I mean,
yeah, I was gonna say, I think eventually they have to go on that tire, but it's gonna be depending. We'll see maybe some guys toward the back start on the black tires, some guys near the front start on the primaries. It really depends on how these drivers want to attack this race because the Eagle chew up these tires. It's very easy to overheat, and we're seeing in qualifying drivers already wiping out because of it. Adam Blocker, he's out. He's across the line. He actually will be able to get one more lap in. This is his final qualifying attempt. Doesn't really need to because everyone else has ended qualifying. We saw Rayshad Craig come across the line. It was not a clean lap for him, so he is done. Adam Blocker just out there by himself, just trying to see if he can best his own time at this point.
Anything will help. Probably want to strike fear in the competitors to say, hey, I'm that much faster. It's only half a tenth right now, but could be a lot more. A very tidy exit there. Nice and, I would say, skinny out of that corner. Very narrow, I think is a better word to say, which will get you a good run into this set of corners. You use all the car over the curbing there. Not too much. Don't get yourself a corner cut, but you can pretty much put the undercarriage of the Indy car all over that curb, and you'll be just fine. But over here, don't want to touch him here. They'll bounce you wide, and he did a good job doing that again.
Right on board with him as he works past this last sector, and it's so much commitment through here over the crest. Make sure you can hear the RPMs jump up as the car gets light on the weight, and in the back end you see him counter-steering it as he's heading right, almost a drift through that into that final right-hander, then back onto the start-finish. You're also going to get sideways here through the left-hander, the final corner, and across the line for Blocker, 106.9. That'll not be faster than his fastest lap, but he will still keep a pole position. In fact, let's take a look at your standings.
All right, Brian Carey had a spin. He was on his third lap.
Looking to check your session results here as qualifying's come to an end. Adam Blocker, and look how close it is up near the top. Ike Trano trailing by under a tenth of a second. Then you got the championship competitor looking in from second place, Christian Steele. Then Rayshad Craig, Hamilton Akabueze will settle back in sixth. Oster, Altona, Marquez, and Carey are top 10.
At 0.3 of a second separating 5 cars. That's pretty impressive for a track like Barber where it's very fast-paced and you need to be very precise to put a hot lap down. So really strong. Even 0.8 of a second separating the top 10 is pretty solid. David Adams, 11th, Forsyth, Wood, Branch, Vinicius, John Christensen, Alexander Ball. A few drivers not putting times down. Still pretty tight field today. A little bit more than what we saw at Long Beach, which is an even tougher track.
It really is, considering the wall's so close, although this track's going to feel treacherous in more ways than one when these drivers head to it in just a couple minutes' time. Take a look here. Just want to thank the sponsor for this race, and that will be Penguin RC Simulation, sponsoring last week Long Beach, and also sponsoring this week at Barber. Check them out for all your sim racing accessory needs. That's Penguin RC Simulation. And again, thanks to them again for sponsoring this week, the penultimate round of the IES season here. And again, glad to just be back broadcasting IndyCar here on YouTube through iRacing, because, of course, not able to broadcast any events throughout 2023. And we'll be most likely coming back for 2024, have an official, or the next season in 2024, but we'll see what the future has in a whole. Just glad to have these guys back. They always put on a fantastic show. And this championship fight, it's been a lot more entertaining than I thought it was going to be, especially with the season that Brandon Trano's had.
Yeah, he's had an incredible season, so it is a little surprising to see the title fight this close. He rattled off 7 straight wins from the beginning of October at Phoenix to all the way middle of December before the Christmas break at Mid-Ohio. That's about 2 months, over 2 months of wins, just winning the race. But it's been a great charge from Christian Steele to stay in this title fight. He did make the mistake last week. It could have been a lot better coming into this second to last race, but he's still in a good spot to capitalize here. Both of them are gonna be at a slight disadvantage. They're gonna be on the same row starting this race, so it's gonna be really important to see those two battle into turn one.
A lot can go right, a lot can go wrong. We'll see what is going to be in store for us. But first, let's go through our starting grid. Starting on pole, it's going to be Adam Blocker in the number 74 machine. Next to him, Andreas Like lined up in the 76 in second place.
And then the title rivals we just mentioned, Brendan Trano will start third to the inside, then Christian Steele in the number 2. He'll start to the outside in fourth.
Moving on back to fifth place, it's going to be Rashad Craig in the number 21 machine. Hamilton Akaboise lined up in the 107 in sixth place.
Akaboise trying to go back-to-back. Jacob Oster starts 7th position. Julian Altena, who was one of a few drivers on an alternate strategy last week, different tire wall compound, he starts 8th.
I already see a couple of drivers picking some different sidewall compounds. We'll take a look at it when we get down to the grid. Andrew Marquez lined up in 9th place in the 36. Next to him, Brian Carey will be in the 79 in 10th.
11th place, David Adams in a 00. Craig Forsyth in the 99 will start in that 12th position.
Moving on back to 13's Andrew Wood in the number 64 machine. Next to him, Joe Branch lined up in the 28 in 14th.
15th position goes to Paolo Vinicius in the 142. He had a quiet week last week at Long Beach. John Christensen, same thing for him. He starts 16th.
Moving on back to 17th, Alexander Ball lined up there in the 12 car. Next to him, Seb Alexander in 18th in the 49.
19th position is going to go to the driver of the 13, Chris Stouffer, and Gary Laverne in the number 98 will start in the 20th position.
And that'll round out your field of 20 drivers here at Barber. Field gets ready to roll off here. Pace car is just making its way down to turn 1. And while it is, take a chance to see what tires the drivers are picking, because it's quite mixed near the front.
Yeah.
The top 3 taking all on the alternate. That's Blocker, Andreas Ike, Brendan Trano. Then from Christian Steele on back, we have him leading the charge on the primaries next to Rashad Craig, Akaboise, Oster, Altena, all on primaries. And we talked about Altena on the primaries last week. Andrew Marquez going to be on the alternates, Kerry on the primary tires. Then taking a look at David Adams on the alternates. A couple more drivers on the primaries, Forsyth, Wood, Branch, Vinicius, John Christensen, and then a couple more near the back. Alexander Ball on the alternates. Seb Alexander is not grid. Christopher on alternates, and Gary Loren rounding out in primary. So a fairly even split, slightly more biased to the primary tires.
It's actually not. I think I counted about 12 drivers on the black wall. The top 3 are on the alternates, and then Marquez, Adams, and then at the back, Stouffer and Balls. It's 12-7, which is a little surprising to see. Majority of the drivers went to the primary tires, but the top 3 who will try to get fighting for that clean air are going to try to be on the alternates, trying to get that gap at the beginning. It is interesting to see Steele go for a strategy alternate to Brandon Trano as well, so that's something we'll have to look at too.
Let's take a look at the weather here quickly before we go back green. It'll be 43.9 degrees Celsius track temperature, which, if I'm doing my conversion right, is going to be pretty slick for these drivers out there, which makes sense why we're seeing them sliding around in qualifying. And 20.4 air temp in the air, and I think if anything, it might get maybe slightly bit hotter as we start to get more running out on the track and these drivers lay down some more rubber. We'll see how it plays out here. Interesting mix in tire strategy. Of course, our championship competitors very fittingly lined up astern next to each other in row number 2. And we said things can go right, things can go wrong. We saw it go wrong for Brandon Tree. We saw it go wrong for Christian Steele. And of course, for Christian Steele, he needs to finish ahead of Trano if he wants to have a better shot at the championship here when we head to the Indianapolis 500 at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in just about a month's time. But first, the penultimate round here at Barber. Everyone getting stacked up. 19 Indy cars getting ready to go through the final corner and onto the front straightaway. It'll be 47 laps on the clock. And Blocker will lead them down. We are green here for Barber. Julian Alton, we saw go a little bit wide there on the opening few corners, but he will be okay. Everyone will be making it through the couple first corners, and now into the hairpin for the first time. It's going to be a major passing opportunity. 3 wide, hello, to the inside. I believe that's Jacob Oster trying to take advantage. He will get the pass done. How about that?
Spin in the background, car in the barrier.
Forsyth.
Yeah, Forsyth, he's going to get the front clip, the front wing knocked off of that, but that was a heck of a move by Oster. He started 7th. That puts him up into, I believe, the 5th position. That was a strong move.
Very strong move. We'll take a look at what happened to Forsyth later on once we get this first lap sorted out. But, of course, the top 3 on the faster tires scampering off away. Brendan Trano, more importantly, he's gotten up to 2nd place. Christian Steele will be leading the charge on the primary tires. For them, might take a lap or 2 before they can maybe try to poke back at the guys in the alternates.
It was a very packed up start as well. The only driver to really get away was Adam Blocker. He'll lead the first lap. He opened a 1.2 second gap in that first lap as Altona went wide on the second stint, the second part of the track. Kind of held up Marquez a little bit, but kept it straight as Andreas Ike trying to pressure Trano can't do it. As we've got pre-single file, Rashad Craig went wide in turn number 2, but he kept it straight as well.
And you see now Andrew Marquez trying to move up a little bit faster, feeling a little bit faster than Julian Alton. I was trying to make a move to the outside. Now looking to the outside in the hairpin. Can't quite get it done. That's going to be a frustrating feeling as a driver. You feel faster, feel like you can make the move. And there he's going to try to make a move on Alton heading to the corkscrew.
That's tough play. Someone's got to give. Can't go too wide there. Neither driver really gave, but Altona ultimately had to back out a little bit. I think Altona is going to struggle here on the beginning part of the run. Marquez is through.
I think he knows it's a losing battle fighting against a driver on a faster compounded tire, especially at the beginning of the run. So playing it smart will back out for now. Look, Christian Steele, the gap starting to separate a little bit more. Andreas Hike trying to keep it. Brandon Trano, but Adam Blocker leaving everyone in the dust over here. 1.6 seconds up ahead. And we'll continue that lead onwards. We'll take a look and see what happened to Craig Forsyth here on the opening lap. Had some issues early on.
Quick update. Well, actually, no, never mind that. No one cares about NASCAR. I have to remember where we're at, but yeah, Forsyth was on his own. The outside, I believe Andrew Wood just
got loose.
Yeah, just got loose. Almost looked like Wood kind of crowded him a little bit, but either way, I think that was on his own. A little out of the groove, a little wide from where you want to be. Not much rubber out there, but it's hard to catch that barrier. But unfortunately for him, he did, and he is maybe parked it.
It might have been decent damage to the nose of that car. Whoa, hello, Rachel Craig went really wide. He went pretty wide in general. I'm not sure if he's just struggling to find the grip with the primary tires. Went a little bit wide there. He's got Andrew Marquez probably potentially barreling down on him in the next couple laps or so in the faster tire, that pink and black car we were looking at earlier on. But everything's sorting out single file, which we expect for Barber. You know, especially at the beginning of the run, you really don't want to be pushing it hard around here. It's going to be a lot of a tire conservation. Easily to overheat those tires and to push them too hard. You want to make them last the stint.
They definitely need to really conserve here, and we'll see what the pit strategy is. Usually in real life at Barber, we see all sorts of strategy, whether it's rain or shine. Seems like everyone's doing something different. This could be another similar day today with completely different strategies playing out.
I hope so. The strategies always make it interesting here, and it's starting to get a little bit interesting here. There you see Jacob Oster go a little bit wide. Hamilton Akawaze going to let his teammate on by. Exchange of positions for the Team I5G cars. I was going to say Akawaze looking a little bit faster, so coordinated effort here. As Akawaze moves up, and actually also Christian Steele, also a member of that organization. So they're running 4th, 5th, and 6th. Guess not too surprising that they're running the same compounded tire.
And it's pretty, it seems like the biggest trouble spot right now for these drivers looks to be down in turn 7B. A lot of lockup on the right front. I think all 3 of the i5G cars did that last time around. I definitely saw Christian Steele do that, and that's going to be very tough. Not exactly the same sort of flat spotting that we would see in real life, but it's still going to wear your tire out and be a deterrent to your day if you keep locking it up like that.
Christian Steele already fallen back now 7 seconds from the lead, but of course this is all part of the strategy. You go on the slower tire, and really you're wondering how much slower are they? Well, let's take a look at the lap times that these drivers are running right now. 109.4, that was the best lap, actually similar to the last lap that Christian Steele ran. Meanwhile, the leader's up in front, 107.9. And the fastest Adam Blocker, 107.4, so almost 2 seconds off the pace, but of course, this is not going to last forever.
I believe the fastest lap from the primary was, I think last time by Rashad Craig, a 109.3, so even still, that's over a second off, and that will change over eventually, but so much time loss. You wonder how much they're going to be able to hold on. But at the same time, as this track gets more rubber on it, those alternate tires will probably be even stronger later in this race.
And more with David Adams, you see him with red alternate tires, and he's got 2 drivers on slower tires up ahead and barreling down on them. Let's see if he can get on past. And again, passing, while difficult, non-possible around here. You got turn 1 mostly and turn 5. Those are going to be your favorite passing opportunities, I think, for today.
Oster was one who took advantage of 5 with that 3-wide move, but he's probably on the defensive here. He's struggling. Rashad Craig has a run at him, looks inside, but thinks better of it. Not quite close enough. It does take a bit of a dive bomb to make that work, and yeah, not willing to, and there was a little bit of a lockup there from the 107 of Akaboise.
Craig's got to be careful because, again, Marquez is barreling down on him with some faster rubber. Go ahead flying into the corkscrew, so if he tries to make a move on Oster, it could open up the door for Marquez. And of course, in the background, Altona, Carey, and Adams in their own trio, and battling amongst themselves for the 9th place position. Up in the top 3, not much to report. All of them have separated out by decent gaps, and it's really in the midfield that things are getting a little bit more interesting.
I wonder how happy most of the drivers are that Adam Blocker has not been full-time this season.
That is very true. He has done fairly well for the races he has shown up for. I have to pull his stats to take a look at them, but for the race,
darn well.
Yeah, I mean, which is not surprising. We've seen him come in here and do very well for himself in this series.
Even though he does have no wins in his 8 starts, but 6 top 5s, yeah, 7 top 10s.
He's been very consistently near the front of the field. And again, that's the big thing, too, because we looked at Brandon Treadwell. It was a huge lockup. I'm going to assume that was Christian Steele or Akaboise.
It seems like they're all set up the same, and it's showing in the fact that they seem to all be locking up at the same time most of the time. Steele didn't lock up that time. Akaboise did lock it up there in 7B, but also in turn 5, I've seen Akaboise also locking up, and Steele did as well. So you can definitely tell they're all teammates.
Yeah, you can tell, you know, with that corner, there's a little bit of a dip. That's why it makes it a little bit harder, actually easier, really, to lock the tires up. These guys are pushing really hard. They're coming through over the crest, catching a little bit of grass as they work their way through that corner.
Andrew Marquez is starting to have a look on Rashad Craig. I don't know if it's Rashad or Rashad. Hopefully I'll remember 3 weeks' time in the 500, but it seems like we're getting a little bit of a hold up here. Not too close together, 4th through 8th.
Sorry to get you off. There's a replay of Paulo Vinicius catching the curb at the wrong place. And went off into the side, off into the wall, off into the railing, off to the side. Just caught the curb a little bit too much, just hooked the car. It's a high-speed part of the track, went flying off. Nothing you can do to save it at that point.
Yeah, and that will kill the suspension and everything. But like you said, high speed of the track and the elevation change, you're in no man's land once you do that. And he had obviously nothing he could do at that point. As battle for 6th, Craig is every now and then getting close to the back of Oster, but seems like he loses in the back part of the racetrack where Marquez is able to take advantage almost. Also, Brian Carey and David Adams have been pretty close to each other the last few laps as well for 10th.
Rachel Gray, got to be a little bit careful here from the dirty air. It's always a big conversation. Well, part of the reason why it's so hard to pass around here, though, I feel like it has gotten better in the last year. You can follow decently close. You see how close he's following to Oscar at the moment. It's not been as bad as it has been in the past. But he's barreling down on Oster. There's no place to go at the moment. He's quicker, but not quite quick enough, it seems.
Adams just got let through by Brian Carey. Saw Andrew Wood had a slide in 14, but kept it relatively clean, as this is probably the closest battle on the track at this point. Craig just can't. It's just hard to find a way through at a track like this. Oster keeps locking up like that. He might open a door eventually, but he's able to keep it in front for 6th for the time being.
Goes to tail, and of course Oster's got the job being the rear gunner for Team I5G for both Akaboise and Christian Steele, and you can imagine that both of them are trying to help their teammate get a championship here and get as many points as possible, so I don't think they're going to necessarily pose that big of a threat to him tonight. kind of play it out and just kind of help him, give him the best shot possible at some points. And obviously now the optics look bad because Steele is almost 10 seconds behind his competitor, but again, we expect that to flip-flop once the tire strategy starts to come into play, which I think we're going to start seeing pit stops, I imagine, within the next 10 laps or so.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if, it'd be hard to make. I mean, I assume you can make a one-stop work, but I don't know, the question is if you really want to do that with how harshly the tires wear. Andreas Eich's time, he's about a second off in third. Adam Blocker's alternate compound, he's starting to run about a second off his times as well, so follow-up is definitely there.
Yeah, we're starting to actually get to a bit of a crossover point now, at least for some of the guys back here for Eich. Trano and Blocker, they're still running some decent pace, although they're noticeably falling off at least 5 to 7/10 of a second off their best laps. And it is only going to get worse for them as the run goes on.
They're definitely starting to rubber up at 7B with how much they're locking up down there. As see another pass for position here. I believe that's Alexander Ball, John Christensen going at it. Christensen's got the spot there. Ball tried to fire it up the inside of 7. That does not work, and he thought better of it.
Yeah, used some push to pass to try to muscle his way on through. Couldn't get it done. And again, seeing a difference in tire compound at play. Ball trying to take advantage of that, but still putting on, John Christensen putting up a decent defense at the moment, so they're continuing on. There's battle for 13th amongst these drivers. You also got Joe Branch.
Oh, Ball almost spun. As well. Yeah, Ball almost spun. That was what I was looking at, but yeah, it just shows how much work goes into a pass in an Indy car around this racetrack as Rashad Craig is working over Oster, almost a little too deep into brakes. Kind of missed the corner there, so he's going to have to fall back and probably gain that time back on the 16 car as lap 11, if you were to two-stop, like you said, we'd probably be within 5 laps away from seeing that occur.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what these guys are going to pull for it. It's a bit, like you mentioned, it's a bit close to do one stop, but pushing, 23, 24 laps on a single set of tires around here, I don't think is the best. It really going to come down to how confident these guys feel in handling a car. And again, you're relying so much on the tires. This is very much a high downforce circuit. You're relying so much on the tires, it's so easy for it to go wrong. And even then, you're going to be really slowing off the pace with the older tires. So I imagine we're going to see more two-stops. But, of course, we got some really high-caliber driver here. So we'll see if anyone tries that strategy.
Yeah, we'll have to see indeed, as we still got 17 cars running on track. Gary Lauvern's gone a lap down. Paolo Vinicius, Craig Forsyth crashing out. Forsyth is back on the track. Vinicius is not going to get back on track. So 18 cars running currently as Ball's still trying to chase down that 67, but lost some time there.
Checking back with the leaders, see how they're doing. Adam Blocker setting the pace of the field. Then you got Brandon Trano about 3.4 seconds back, and then another conveniently 3.4 seconds back is Andreas Eich. And all the top 3 have scattered away from Christian Steele, who's 9 seconds back from these drivers. And then he's leading that charge of drivers in the midfield on the primary tires.
Sorry, Laverne he had like neck code contact with Julian Altona, letting him by well off the pace. That was very, very close.
A huge amount of neck code there.
I don't think he definitely wasn't expecting it, but even then, didn't give that much room to Altona to go by here. That was
good luck nearly as violent from Altona's point of view.
No, he got by very quick. That's very dangerous to be going that slow, that closely to the racing line. I don't think he expected Altona to be there so quickly.
See Jacob Oster on the push to pass at the moment, heading into turn 5. I wonder if that's just to maybe keep some pace ahead of Rashad Craig, prevent him from coming back at him.
Hell, you might be using him if you got him, but he has closed in on Akaboise a little bit more here as the 21's actually starting to get further away in the mirror as they're all locking up at 7B. It's actually quite amazing to see, but they're all making it work, not deterring them too much as this battle is going to continue on. As last time by, Brandon Trano was 3.5 seconds off of Adam Blocker as they're already starting lap number 14. Those 2 are gone at this point.
Setting off in the distance, doing what they can on the faster compounded tire, especially utilizing the clean air. That's another key contributing factor. If you can get that clean air, that's also going to buy you a couple tenths of a second to really push what you've got. And that's what I think some of these drivers back here in the midfield may start to experience issue with. Whoa, a big lockup for Akaboise in turn 2.
That might be too big. He gets a decent run off. Oster is definitely going to try it, I would think, to challenge this if he can. Looks outside, just not close enough to really have.
Yeah, I'm wondering how racy they are going to be, because we did see communication with them earlier. We saw Akaboise get on by with Oster letting him through, and now it looks like maybe he's starting to maybe have them exchange back. Either that, or they're just trying to push the envelope because they really want to make sure that Rayshad Craig doesn't get a chance to make a dive. Still lurking back there in 7th.
Could be them trying to defend from the 21 just a little bit, but I don't know how necessary that really is. Akaboise 3rd in points. He's safe over the 21 by far, so no points positions going on there. He's actually Oster is much closer to the 107, so really if they want to race it out, they can. But I think this is Oster thinking he let his teammate by earlier, but now closing in on him because it looks like Hamilton's worn the tires off a little bit. He might be wanting this swap, maybe the 107 not allowing it.
Oh, a little bit off the track there. Yeah, this 107's looking a lot slower.
Alexander Ball, big damage on the front wing. I think he and Christensen had a coming together, and Christensen's crashed out completely, so they definitely had contact. It seems like he's going to pit. Yeah,
Ball's going to pit to get repaired to that car. What happened between these two? I might have gone a little bit too far back, but got a chance to see. There's John Christensen up ahead of Alexander Ball. Is heading to the corkscrew. I think something happened in the chicane. Did he try to size up a bit too opportunistic of a pass? Well, they had a slow car. Is that Laverne up ahead?
Oh, it's Laverne in the racing line, and Alexander Ball just couldn't check up in time. See, that really can't happen. That's being that slow off the pace, checking up that much. There was nothing John Christensen could do, nothing Alexander Ball can do. It's really, you just cannot be in the line and be that slow right here.
Yeah, it was almost like he braked in the middle of the chicane, and of course you can go comfortably full throttle. You can maybe do a little bit of a lift if you need to. That was a huge lift from Laverne, and he's going to call it a day as well. And for John Christensen, that's going to be frustrating for him.
Yeah, they're going to be both very frustrated. That's the first pit stop of the day, I believe, with no reason to pit besides damage. Or well, I should say it's the first scheduled pit stop. That's an easier way to put that. Injured Marquez in. This is lap 15, and this is a definite two-stop strategy for sure. But he's the first one to come down to do it. Again,
I expect we should see the alternate drivers down a little bit sooner than the drivers on the primary. They should be able to carry out their tires a little bit more over the course of the run. But I think the drivers on the alternates, if they can, they'll try to push them as long as they can to get the maximum amount of time, the shortest amount of time. Because of course the primary tires is pretty decently slower, but of course they have that drivability over the long term. And that's the trade-off these drivers have to balance. Still no twitch from the drivers up in front. Blocker, Trano, and Ike will all continue another lap.
So does Steele, Akaboise, Oster, Craig all go another lap, and it's also a kind of a daunting pit entry because you have to. It's not. You don't actually really decelerate to get into pit road here. You have to accelerate wide through 14 to get into that access road. So you're pushing hard to get through there to make up any time possible. But we've seen drivers kill the barrier on that entry as well.
Speaking of pushing hard, Rayshad Craig getting very close to the back of Jacob Oster, is close to under 0.2 of a second. Going to close up again into the braking zone. And Craig no longer the pressure from Marquez in behind him, so can try to make battle with Oster without having to worry about losing of another position.
Yeah, and it just seems like this is all stacking up behind the 107, but Christian Steele's not too far up the road either, so it's possible the 107's also having some dirty air still on his nose at this point as well. As once again, top two bypass pit entry, as does Ike, so still waiting on everyone else to come down, as this is definitely the most close battle on the track between 3 to 4 cars. We'll group Steele in there for now. It's also close for 12th, Joe Branch and Chris Stouffer all next to each other.
The laps continue to tick off. I have a feeling we might see them potentially push, because I feel like we would have seen a lot more drivers come on down now if we were going to see 2 stops. Maybe we might start to see maybe more one-stop strategies.
Could be possible.
Because it's about 6 laps till halfway.
Unless you're just trying to do... The only thing I could think of is drivers trying to do the shortest stint on the opposite tire compound possible. That could be a strategy. We kind of saw that at Long Beach a little bit when drivers did 2-stop, but I thought that it might be close on fuel. I would not be shocked to see drivers get to that lap 24, 25 mark to do a 1-stop. Adam Blocker, I thought he was pitting, but he just went so wide at 14 that I thought he was pitting, but he's all clear.
See more drivers avoiding the pit road. Ike will continue on another lap as well. There's the gap on track. Back to Christian Steele leading primary's charge on from 4th. Akabueze, Oster, Craig, all nose to tail.
Here comes Akabueze.
There he goes, he will bite. You can see how it's so awkward. It's also, this left turn is very deceptive. I've seen quite a few drivers crash there, and you can see him getting back on the power will go back loose. So he's come on in, and I imagine he's going to have to do 2 stops.
I was about to kind of speculate as if this is a 1-stop, how early do these drivers want to pit to get an undercut on their competitors. This might be something that Akabueze is trying here, just undercutting and just going to have to try maximizing the fuel on the final stint if he's 1-stopping. That might be something we have to look at for sure.
I'm not surprised Akabueze coming in first because he was pushing the tires pretty hard. Looked like he can benefit from getting off of them, getting a new set of tires on. Specifically, the alternate tire for him. So he'll be getting out there and pushing hard. There he is coming out of pit lane. And pushing, so the first of the front runners to come on in. Brandon Trano will be answering the call down to pit lane.
Trano comes down, so this is going to be tight if these drivers do want to 1-stop.
I think they might be doing 2 stops, I think. I don't think they can really push the 1-stop. It's close.
Chad Craig's in. It is interesting that they'd go this far, though, because usually you'd probably want a 47-lap race. They went a little longer than I
think what they're going to do, I think it's because they want to, because this car is, in particular, very fast on low fuel. I think drivers trying to benefit from that. So Brendan Trano out of the pits. Andreas Ike, he's going back on the, he was on the alternates. He's going back, he's going onto the primary tires for the first time. Brandon Trano, he is on the alternate, so he's definitely going to be coming back in.
Yeah, 100%.
So, and I think his strategy is going to be, well, I want to be on the slowest tire for the shortest amount of time. He's going to probably do maybe half a stint on the primaries.
That's exactly what Adam Blocker is going to do too, and he had such a lead over the 9 that he could go a lap longer. He probably could have gone another lap longer if he wanted to, but don't want to push it. The tires were definitely wearing out. Race leaders in. That leaves Christian Steele in the 2nd position, and then Oster would be 3rd. All 3 of those drivers, those two drivers, still yet to pit, working lap number 20, and Steele's going to go another.
Oh, hello. There's Oster going flying past the camera. He's retiring to the pit lane.
Lock up on entry, but he gets it down, the pit speed. David Adams 6th comes in.
Walker will come out in 2nd place. There is Christian Steele. So Walker almost got out an entire pit stop lead. That's F1 type stuff.
Super Max. In this case, Super Adam.
I mean, that's what you get when you get a really fast driver on the faster compounded tire. It can make a really big gap. But of course, again, Walker is going to be down to lose a lot of that through the next part of this race. I'm really wondering, is Christian Steele, because he's one of the last, almost everyone else has now come down to pit lane. He's one of the last drivers to remain out. Is he dare going to push it? And you can argue he's in a position where he needs to take some sort of big swing.
I was going to say the same thing. In his point situation, clearly Trano was faster today, and I don't think he really has a chance to beat him straight up without issues happening. He might have to try something different, but if these guys are close on fuel, this is going to be a big stretch.
He's continuing out. I think he's going to have to go for it at this point. Right? He's going to go almost 22 laps. I'm really unfortunate that we can't see their fuel data. We just kind of have to guess and assume what they're going to do. But again, halfway through this race is going to be, if I'm not mistaken, what, lap 23?
23 and a half,
yeah,
really. So let's say 24.
Yeah, so he's going to have to go 23, 24. He might go a little bit shorter because, of course, they have that pace lap, so he might go 23 laps. So yeah, one more lap come in. And then
if he wants a real chance to make it, he's probably got to try to go another lap here. Probably pit next time by, not this time by.
Yeah.
I like it if he can pull it off. I do like the move like we were talking about. I think this is something he's got to try before the Indy 500.
And of course, with the Indy 500, it being Triple Crown event, extra points will be handed out as well, so more of an advantage. Whoa! Oh, man!
Oh, man!
Who was that?
Was
Chris
that
Stouffer?
Stouffer, yeah. He's in the middle of the track, crashed.
A huge wipeout for the number 13 machine. A very fast part of the racetrack. Let's see what happened to him. Catch the curve the wrong way. Nope, he's got...
Oh man, terrible hit. And he was lucky not to collect Adam. He was lucky not to collect Adam Blocker here.
That was Adam Blocker coming through, yeah.
Left rear in the dirt, got him loose. Blocker is able to squeeze by, and then
that's Trano coming through as well. He's trying to avoid the debris. Hit the wing. Luckily for him, that's not going to do any damage.
Yes, thankfully iRacing not able to make that work properly. Actually hitting
it's
debris.
Weird because I have gotten damage from hitting a cone, I think, but I don't think the debris really does a whole lot.
Not quite as much, but definitely fortunate for those two to go and stay out of that trouble, because that was incredibly close and a big hit for Stouffer. As we were looking at that replay, Christian Steele did go another lap, so if he wants to one-stop, he can do this. It is going to be a big stretch on the alternate compound, but this gives him an opportunity, a window to make this work.
And that's the thing, though. He's got to really, for the primary tires, it requires some management, yes, but not nearly as much as it's going to require for the alternates, because they're going to be on such a load for the majority of the run here. He's going to come down, surrender the lead to Adam Blocker. We'll give that back to him, but we'll only have to make one more stop to the end of this race. That being said, he's going to have to do some fuel saving, I imagine.
I would think so, and it's going to be tough because you need to save the tires to make this work, but at the same time, you need to push a little bit to, gain enough time to make it possible to win this race, or at least finish higher than you were going to in making this work. So this is going to be a stretch, but I like the imagination, and I am a little surprised he was the only one to try this strategy.
I guess everyone else is figuring out this is not going to work, requires too much saving for it to be worth it, but he feels it is worth the shot. He'll come back out. We'll come back out in 7th, I believe, just ahead of Julian Altena. Actually, decent amount ahead of Julian Altena, so he's got some room to get the tires up to temperature.
He came out behind a big battle in front of him. Oster got by Akabuezi. Rashad Craig's trying to get by both of them. Up the outside, he's going to go way wide here and lose that battle. But Oster just worked his way around his teammate after I think Akabuezi locked up into turn 2.
Take a look back at it at these two. It was all kicking off at Hamilton Akabuezi. He's been really struggling through 1 and 2. And a bit wide, locked up again, very similar to what we saw him do in the previous run, and that just opened the door for Oscar, whether or not he wanted it or not, had to take it, and got on pass. And then Rashad Craig was really hoping to try to get past these two. He's been a thorn in their side, but just not able to execute.
Yeah, he's been going too far wide in that corner when he's trying to make passes, and that hurt him. This could also end up hurting Christian Steele, because while he is going to try to have to save his tires, it's still likely he's going to be faster, a little bit faster than these guys on fresher tires. So he's probably hoping for them, not to catch him at a bad spot, really, because he'll almost certainly be getting closer to those guys eventually.
Rachel Gray closing in on the back of Hamilton Akabuezi, kind of hoping at this point he makes another bad move into turn 2, but he will keep it on a decent line in the middle of the racetrack. Push to pass activated for Craig. Gonna have a little bit of overdrive compared to Akabuezi. Will dive to the inside, will just barely be there. He's trying to see if he can muscle his way up pass on the exit.
Might need more push to pass. You cannot go too wide through here. Akabuezi's got the line. I think Craig's going to have to give way here. He has to. No chance through that corner.
And that's so frustrating as a driver, because he used that resource up that didn't amount to anything. So a little bit of frustration there, but he's going to have to regroup and re-attack. And there's Christian Steele in the background. And again, we don't expect him to get involved in a whole lot of this battling, because eventually he's going to be past all of them when they come down for their second trip down to pit road.
And he's just trying to bide his time and not get held up that much. Akabuezi was wiggling out of that corner. I think he got the left rear in the dirt through 13. But he's still holding his 21 at bay, while now after we saw him struggling, Jacob Oster's cleared this battle completely well away. His 4th is completely his, and now the battle's for 5th.
Akabuezi moving through a little bit wide in turn 2. Craig trying to take a tighter line up through turn 4. And see Rachel Craig again trying to eye up a move. Will not use push to pass this time, so didn't feel confident getting on through.
It's not close enough. No. You can tell he is pressuring Hamilton into a few mistakes here, as they're still battling throughout the rest of the field too. This is Brian Carey to the inside of Julian Altena, who's on the primary compound still. and he's going to get past Vicary, and that's for the 8th position.
It's an interesting move by Altona to go primary twice. I guess he's feeling it's better to be for the long run.
Had a spin. Alexander Ball had a spin out of 7B. Which dropped him. I don't know if he lost position out of it, but he definitely lost time.
Been not the best runs for Ball this race. Unfortunately, got involved in an incident. Nothing he could have done. And then here, fortunately, just dipped the tire in the grass, half spin, and looped it around. Had to get it going back in the right direction. I think might have lost a position to Joe Branch.
Marshall shrugging their shoulders like, what is he doing over here? I like how they move around. It's funny. Yeah. They kind of, I can't even think of the word, but they kind of interact with drivers. Rayshad Craig, still, he just cannot get there. It seems like he's even struggling out of 3. That uphill sort of kink to the right. It's almost like, because you can't spin out there very easily, you cannot whip the wheel partially because of that. You kind of get a little bit of air over there, so it looks like he's been struggling the most there, oddly enough.
He's probably going to be annoyed at seeing all the Team 5 IG logos throughout this race. He's been trapped in between or in behind all of them, Oster, Akabueze, and Steele, and just no way around. And Steele actually closing in slowly but surely on this battle. And he's just kind of minding his own business. He's running his own race. Craig take a much wider line through the penultimate corner. Trying to build up some sort of run to get past Akabueze, who's been making that car as wide as possible.
Yeah, his chance is 5, but he's got to be close enough to really clear him out of 5. Maybe try to get the correct line to the inside for 7, but he hasn't been able to quite do that yet, and he's not going to be close enough this lap as well. Looking at Christian Steele's times, you're in a 108.99. That is still much slower than Adam Blocker. Even on the primary compound, Blocker about 9/10 of a second faster than that.
Looking at Brandon Treno, who's trying to chase down on a Blocker, and surprisingly Blocker, who's on a slower tire, is running a faster lap than Brandon Treno, and I imagine this is because Treno's trying to manage these tires a little bit more. I think he wants to go long on these tires. But it's interesting to note. I thought he would have caught him a lot closer. Ran almost similar times last time through. Treno slower by 0.02 of a second to Blocker. They're managing the gap just under 3 seconds back from Blocker. And Andreas Heike's fallen off in this battle 13 seconds back.
He did close in. That gap was a little bigger than 3 seconds, so he's done a good job this stint, but yeah, probably trying to go long, spend the least amount of time possible on that primary compound as Oster's pulled away from that battle for 4th. He's now about 3.5 seconds clear of Akabueze, who is holding up Rayshad Craig pretty well, but he locked it again, but not able to take advantage to 21. He might be on the push to pass again here, though.
He's not, actually.
Yeah, he's not exactly close enough.
Into the braking zone they will go.
Problem when Akabueze locks up like that, he goes really wide out of that corner as well. Problem when he locks up like that, he's still in the groove, so it doesn't really help.
That's an interesting activation for Craig, trying to take advantage of Akabueze. I think he thought that the 107 was going to have much more trouble getting back on the power. Unfortunately, he used up one more race, didn't really go to anything, so he's still stuck in behind him. Battle for 5th place lurking.
I think he's trying to stay close enough to maybe pressure him more into turn number 1, possibly. That might have been a part of that push-to-pass play, but just not quite able to keep pace. Just Akabueze just has enough grip through this section to make this work. He almost tried the Grosjean move through that final set of corners. I remember that from last year, but not quite able to make it work. It is hard to pull off, but it looked like he was looking for it, but not quite close enough. But once again, this is the trouble spot for the 107, but he's much cleaner this time. But still, you can tell how much he's struggling to get through the corner. A lot of understeer.
I feel like he probably should activate push pass this time, but I don't know.
He might look anyways.
I think he's trying to distract Akabueze, and I don't think he's really fazed by that. He's been minding his own race. I think looking at the track ahead, and it's been playing out to him pretty well. He's held his own with the 21 so close behind. It's so easy to make a mistake at a track like this.
This is the toughest part of the track, to be right behind someone. Not only some blind corners, but very understeery at this part of the track behind someone. But even then, it still looks like the 107 is the one struggling the most through this section, even though he has the cleanest air anyone else has on track, really.
Taking a look at some other battles while we have this going on. Julian Alton has become a bit of a cork in the bottle. He's got Andrew Marquez behind him, David Adams as well. And Andrew Wood, Joe Branch lurking in the background as well. Wood on the faster rubber, trying to close into the drivers up ahead of him. Really the closest battles on the track. Everyone else separated out, a bit in their own world, all trying to make it to the end.
Craig.
Most drivers one more stop except for Christian Steele.
I think Craig has a run here in the 5. He looks to the inside again. Akabueze stopped the nose, shut the door. He's going to send it anyways. There was almost contact there.
Craig, that was a really good opportunity gone right there. Take a look and see how how close it was.
Once again, I don't even know if he was on push to pass, just much better through turn 2, and it makes a difference, but you could see how deep Hamilton went under braking to defend that move and then kind of squeezes the 21 to the apex on exit there.
He was not on push to pass. He really should have been.
I don't know how many he might have left at this point.
He got 7.
Oh, but Craig's gotten by. Craig got by at the out of 7 or something.
Really?
Got the position.
Huh, well, take another replay. Look at what happened.
That is... Oh, Hamilton must have messed up over the curbing.
He did.
And he had no choice but to let Rashad Craig by.
Right on board with Rashad Craig. See his on board. Finally gets the pass done in a very unlikely part of the track.
And it was very odd, and I'm sure he's thinking, thank you, finally. Look how much of a gap he's already built. I mean, he was much faster.
And now, maybe to his dismay, he's got another I5G car to get past, and that is Jacob Oster, though he is 4 seconds and change up at the road in 4th place.
Certainly going to be a tall task, but they still all have one more to make besides the 2 of Steele, which, looking back on him, he really hasn't closed in on Hamilton even through that battle.
And here's the thing that gets me a little bit worried, because looking at the pit stop time, does show up there. 30 seconds is the pit stop time. However, if you look at the timing screen, you'll see that Steele was 34 seconds in behind. Now, of course, his blocker is not his main concern, but Brendan Trano is, so even though he's gone on this one-stop strategy, I don't quite think it's going to work out in his favor.
I don't think so. I think his best shot is getting 3rd position away from Andreas Ike. Alexander Ball had another crash, so he might be out of the race for good. But I think the only thing he's going to be able to get is 3rd out of this, because Trano might come out barely in front of him, but
yeah, and Trano is coming out on the slower rubber as well, on the primary tires, because he has to go onto that compound. But I don't think that's going to inhibit him that much. So Steele in a bit of a precarious situation, because he's not able to. He's in a bit of a catch-22, because he can't push really that much on his tires unless he's really holding back and will push more towards the end when the fuel's light. He can't push that hard because he's got to carry these tires 24 laps.
And also the fuel 24 laps.
Yeah.
So he's saving both aspects of the car right now best he can, and it's showing in the timing sheet. He's running 109, mid to high 109s, and that's still well off Adam Blocker, who is still in the low minute .8s. As a matter of fact, he's been very consistently there, and it is so impressive to see. He came out of pit road. Since he's come out of pit road, he has not ran a lap slower than a minute 8.3, and he is still running that time.
Yeah, it's gotten a lot of top 5 finishes. No wins this season so far for Blocker in his part-time schedule, but if he keeps things up, it's going to look a lot in his direction. Andrew Marquez, he's come down to pit lane. He's going to come down for his final stop. One of the earlier drivers to come in. He's breaking this race into more even stints compared to the rest of his competitors.
Just something you'd usually do in a stock car for the most part. Doesn't seem like to be the way to go in an Indy car. He's been really the only one to actually do it like that. So this is going to be in no man's land here. Not
too surprised again, because a lot of the factors, this car gets significantly faster with the lighter fuel compared to the stock car, which is almost a non-factor. So that's where I think the big difference is. You really want to run slightly different stint lengths.
Andreas Eichsen, he was on the primary compound, and he cuts this stint pretty short himself, I believe. He pit lap 19, I believe, and so this is a short stint.
And again, not too surprised by this, because I think he wants to be on the faster tire.
Oster, Akabueze, they're both in, so everyone's cutting this middle stint short. It's interesting for the 107 because he was still on the alternate, or he was on the alternate this time.
And I think they're breaking up the alternate, the last leg into 2 alternate stints. So there's Ike going back on the alternate compound. Actually, he was on the primary compound, so he will go back on the alternates like he ran at the beginning.
Harry Altona Wood all in. Adam Blocker's coming through 14 right now. He will not pit. Keeps it nice and tidy to the apex.
That's where Christian Steele is running in relation, 37 seconds back from Blocker. Brandon Traynor will continue out one more lap. And a big gap back to Rayshot Craig.
And he is going to have 14 seconds to Andreas Ike in the last 11 laps. So that's really his battle now. Trying to keep Ike behind to get a few extra points.
There's Christian Steele, and there is Andreas Ike on fresh alternate tires, and he's going to be able to push to the end. And Ike's shown some pretty decent pace. He kept up with the top 3 up until really the end of the first stint. So on the short run, he's pretty quick around here. So I feel like the 2 might be in danger here.
Craig is in. He was in front of the 2 of Steele, so at the very least, Steele will have cleaner air for the time being. But Ike will be bearing down on him soon enough. So 21's in. David Adams will come in from 8th, still waiting on Blocker and Traynor to come down.
Blocker working through the back half of the track right now. See if he decides to surrender. Nope, he will continue on. Brandon Traynor, well, you know, he definitely has to come back in, and he will continue out front of the circuit.
And he will stretch this as long as he can. Both of them, really, but especially Blocker. He's built that lead back up to about 5 seconds.
And I think what both of them want to do, they want to make sure they end up ahead of Christian Steele, because there is a 30-second gap between, over 30-second gap between them. So here's Brandon Traynor in turn 2. Way on the other side of the track is Christian Steele.
Yeah, so that shows how much more pace those 2 have over really the rest of the field, because no one else is really going to be close to them. Altona and Marquez are going to battle in the turn 5 for position behind Brian Carey, and Altona takes the inside line, which might not be preferred in the 7, but he's able to get more rubber out of the corner than Marquez, so he keeps that position. David Adams, Andrew Wood, also a little bit of a battle after, I believe Adams just came out of the pits behind this battle even.
There is Adams out of the pits. Going to be about half a lap or so to get the tires warmed back up, but will be ahead of Andrew Wood, who also just came recently into pit lane. A lot of pit stops in the last 3 laps. Everyone back from Ike's pit, and there is Adam Blocker going to join the list of drivers that have come down to pit in the 74 machine. Brandon Traynor, another lap for him to go on by, and this will be interesting to see where Christian Steele comes out. We expect to see him come out in behind Adam Blocker.
You get a lap led, I believe, or you get a bonus point for leading a lap.
Yes,
so Traynor did need this. But Traynor needed it as well, staying out this time.
Steele got it, so yeah, there is Traynor with his 1 lap lead.
Blocker will come out maybe in a tiny bit of traffic, but it won't be too severe. It's lap traffic, really. He'll get there eventually. He's in clean air.
There's Blocker out, and Steele now just coming to the front straightaway, so that's the gap. So definitely not looking like Steele's going to have any chance at Traynor. And again, he's going to be looking more in his mirrors, because Ike, since we talked about Ike coming in, he's cut the gap almost in half. He's been pushing pretty good.
You wonder if Ike gets there, is even going to fight it. It is interesting to see this happen for Steele, because he wasn't locked in the 4th, but he had a pretty decent gap over Jacob Oster before he committed to this 1 stop. So we'll see what happens compared to the 16 as well. We're about under 10 laps to go. That gap is about 14 seconds.
Yeah, Jacob Oster another 10 seconds, and of course that's a teammate as well, so we'll see if he'll show some mercy to his fellow competitor. I think he might yield, even if he might not even have to yield. I don't think he may get there, Jacob Oster, to the back of Christian Steele. So I think Steele at this moment should be good for 4th. Of course, trying to see if he can hold off for that podium. Hiding anything that he can do. I don't really think so at this point. We're looking at his lap times. Laps led, lap times. They're 109.2, like 107.5.
At this point, he's committed to the strategy as well. You have to make this work. You have to make the fuel and tires last, or else it's going to be much worse for him at this point. Trainor's still going out there. He's going to go as short as he can on the primaries.
Yeah, he's trying to continue them out as long as possible. He's still trying to see if he can get past Blocker. He wasn't too terribly far behind, but I would argue Blocker's got the faster car. Up and here he goes. Into pit lane. Now, I think
Not really
Walker should get by a couple seconds. I wonder if Treno has got anything for Blocker.
You'll be on the slower tire.
Oh yeah, that's true. I keep forgetting that he has to go into the primaries.
Well, that was the thing that kind of killed his chances realistically. Blocker was able to extend that lead on the primaries, and he was very consistent. So I think any hope of a battle went out the window. Adam Blocker surges into turn number 1, already clear of Brandon Treno by a big margin. As Treno comes out, he will also have a big margin over Christian Steele.
And through the final corner, there's Christian Steele coming out of the final corner. So there's the gap between the two championship competitors.
And there's Andreas Ike.
Yep, bearing down on Christian Steele. Battle for third place, that final step on the podium. And of course, Christian Steele would love to do everything in his power to prevent him from getting past, but there is quite literally nothing he can do at this point.
I don't even know if he even has push to passes left, and he probably can't even use those either if he's really trying to hard save, because it seems like he's coasting a lot into the corners, specifically turn 5 there. He might be in more trouble than we think.
I mean, again, he does have a decent amount of gap to play with to Jacob Oster, so he needs to yield some time to save. He's got a little bit of a cushion. Not a big cushion, but a little bit of a cushion. And Ike on the push to pass, trying to see if he can get this pass done sooner rather than later. Here he goes side by side. Haven't seen a pass work through here yet. No, but he's trying to defend.
And that is really going to slow up Ike and probably kind of mess with him a little bit. This will be where he is not able to defend, though, through 14. So Ike is clear and through. Steele tries a crossover, but nothing he can do there. Ike is through.
All for naught there. But Ike trying to see, he's got 14 seconds to get to Brandon Treno. I don't think that's going to really realistically happen for Ike unless Treno runs into some big issues here. He is again on the slower tire, but there's too few laps to go at this point. I think looking at 7 laps to go.
And 7 laps to go, and we'll see if that gap from Steele to Oster comes down, because Oster can probably hold up for Steele for a little while, but he's also got Rashad Craig only about 3.3 seconds behind him, so that could become a battle if Oster catches the 2 of Steele before the final laps of the race, and that could really throw a wrench at things.
Taking a look at Adam Blocker, I see him on the push to pass, and he's trying to get the fastest lap at this point, might as well. As he rocks to the start-finish line, we'll see if he's going to be faster. 107.043. He's been running very consistently. His last few laps have been in under 107.1.
He ran the same lap, the 2 laps prior, a minute 7.084. And Treno out of pit road on the primary, a 108.1. That just shows the amount of advantage Blocker has had today. That gap is still growing and almost up to 10 seconds.
Jacob Oster working through the final corner, and there's Rashad Craig, the gap between both of them. Craig faster by a couple tenths of a second. We'll see this time through as a timesheets refresh. Just a bit faster by a couple hundredths. Potentially the next battle looming. There's one battle further down. Andrew Marquez, David Adams battling for 10th place. And Adams looking to be a little bit faster than Marquez at the moment.
And Adams is one of those few who is not going really that wide through 14. He's keeping it much more shallow to the apex of 14B through to 15. And it's working well for him so far. Both of these drivers were closing in on Altona a little bit, but not quite the last lap. And Andrew Wood also trying to stay in this battle.
See Wood in the background in the brown and black car in behind. One of the closer battles on the racetrack. For 10th place here, and then Altona just up the road. You can kind of loop him in 9. He's trying to break away from these drivers and secure a top 10.
It'd be a pretty strong result for him after how much he really had to work for his result at Long Beach. He also got 9th there after fighting hard on an alternate strategy, but he might be in store for another 9th place finish as well.
If I'm not mistaken, was fighting with Andrew Wood for that battle.
For a long time. Wood
for the entirety of the race. And
yeah,
he's
pretty
successful.
much.
He's got 2 positions gap to Andrew Wood. Wood running in 12th, as we alluded to before. Everyone else in the top 10 is pretty separated as they stand. No big swings looking in any direction, although Jacob Oster still closing in on his teammate, whether he likes it or not, for 4th place.
All on his own. 21 has tried to close in, but last few laps, not quite able to do so. A little bit faster the previous lap, but not to the point where he will get there in time, as all sorts of shade comes over the racetrack. Almost looks like rain's coming, but not yet. Not for the Indy cars yet.
Tell you what, that'll look amazing for the Indy cars. I cannot wait for them to get rain. Taking a look at the weather as it runs. Ooh, it's cooled down quite a bit. We started with, what, 43.8, I think, or 43 point something on the track time. Now 37.8.
Still very hot track, but much more cool, and that's only going to come down even further as the entire track is covered in shade, not just one corner, one section.
Track time has been dropping significantly since the start of the green flag, and also since the shade has come over the racetrack. Christian Skill might help him a little bit with the handling of this car, and pushing 20 laps on these ultimate tires. And I say pushing, he's not really pushing them hard, he's pushing the limits of the tire, if anything. And his teammate behind running a second a lap faster than him. 109.5 for Christian Steele, 108.5 for Oster.
It's gonna be close. Oster might be able to get there and be able to hang behind him if he wants. But not if he goes wide like that. That was very wide through 13. But he might get there just in time to where he can lay back and keep the two of Steele in fourth without compromising his own position to Rashad Craig, who has still gained a little bit. That gap was about 3.3. It's now about 2.5.
He's slowed down quite a bit here at Barber. Not a whole lot of action going on except for him behind Altonon. Marquez now actually, he was on the back foot. It looks like David Adams is going to try to pass him, but it looks like now Altonon the one under threat as Marquez and Adams are both putting pressure.
Yeah, these three are pretty even. Altonon up with 2.58, Marquez ran a 1.84, and David Adams ran a 0.84. And all this is happening right in front of race leader Adam Blocker, so these guys don't have too much time left to battle this out as Blocker takes the penultimate lap.
You can see Blocker in the background right there.
He does have the opportunity to let them battle if he wants.
Yeah, he does want. I mean, I'm pretty sure this year doesn't have mandatory blue flags, so he's going to have to get through them the hard way, but he's just got 10 seconds to work with. I feel like he might just try to let them battle it out. I don't think there's a reason for him to push past.
I wouldn't think so, but I'm sure those three are hoping they can battle and keep that and not get a lap.
I think everyone except Alton. I think Alton's hoping he can get past them right now and the race.
Altona's hoping he passes those two only. He doesn't want an extra lap or a less of a lap. He just wants those two gone out of the window. Shot Craig, he gained half a second on Oster that time by. Wonder if Oster made a mistake. Still too far away to make that position work though.
Here's Craig and Oster, the gap that they're running with. They got 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, for the leader, he's working through the final corner, and here he goes, white flag in the air. Adam Blocker.
Masterful Drive pretty much led every lap, and it has been dominant, and it's kind of crazy to think he hasn't won a race yet. He has about 4 podium finishes so far this season, but just not able to quite do it, whether it's the oval or the road courses, but this one looks almost undoubtedly done, barring something crazy, but he has been dominant today.
It looks like it's going to get too crazy there as still hanging out and might have to push him for so many laps. He's has a chance to cool it down a little bit after constantly being in the low 107s. He's running 109s now, just letting the corners tick off by here, working through the back half of the course for the 74 machine. 9 seconds the gap back to Brennan Trano as he's just been letting the time tick off by. He's led most of the laps of this race. 41 will be 42 of 47. No wins this season for the 74, but finally it looks like he'll be returning to his place in victory lane. A dominant performance here at Barber. Out of the final corner will be Adam Blocker taking home the win here at Barber Motorsports Park.
Stunning fashion, led all but 5 laps. Incredible result for him. Meanwhile, the other side of things, as far as the title is concerned, Trano comes home a clean P2, extending that gap into Indianapolis over Christian Steele, who will likely come home 4th. Barring as long as he gets through on fuel. Ike is a clean 3rd place. He had a great strong run today as well. Just not quite enough to compete with the top 2. So he rounds out the podium, and Steele does make it the only one stopper of the day. He was 4th, but he stays 4th. and he will have work to do in 3 weeks' time in Indianapolis.
A lot of work for him to be done if he wants this chance at a championship. Jacob Oster will come home in 5th with Rayshard Craig bearing down on him. Near the end, will be half a second short of the number 16 car. Hamilton Boys, who looked like he had a really strong car early on, just couldn't quite keep the consistency going, will settle back for 7th place. Ryan Carey charging back to the line by himself in no man's land will come home in 8th, and then this battle in behind that was able to continue. Not much of a change for them. But Altona, Marquez, and David Adams line to stern, rounding out the lead lap finishers.
Solid results for Altona back-to-back weeks, so he'll be carrying momentum to the Brickyard as well. But a job Adam Blocker did today. Really didn't even have to strategize much, just had that much pace.
Park it down on the front straightaway. Imagine do some burnouts. There we go. Been a while for him to do this in this series. Finally get a burner down here in Alabama. And as he lights it down here, let's take a look at our race results here. And Adam Blocker, of course, taking the win with Brandon Trano, Ike, Steele, Oster, Craig, Hamilton Akabolese, Brian Carey, Altona, and Marquez rounding out the top 10. Moving on back to the second row of drivers, you got David Adams, Andrew Wood, Joe Branch, as well as a couple of others that didn't quite have the luck they needed.
Yeah, a lot of drivers who just didn't really have the pace or luck they needed. I think the luck one goes to John Christensen, who just had nowhere to go when he had contact with Gary Laverne. Seb Alexander had trouble. He didn't even start the race, actually.
No.
Vinicius had trouble early, but Christensen and I believe it was Alexander Ball had nowhere to go, so they had the worst luck tonight. Stouffer also crashed out pretty in the middle portion. And Craig Forsyth got back on track to get the 14th, so at least he climbed back to get something. But it was really all about Adam Blocker tonight as his first win in Indy Elite, I believe, since last season when he won the Indianapolis 500.
Yeah, I think it has been a very long time to see him back in victory lane. A very familiar place for him for the most part here, but again, looking back at the first page of results, again, looking at Trano, second place to Christian Steele's 4th. That's not what the two needed, but of course, wipe it off, try to look and see what he can do next week heading into Indianapolis. I'm trying to just double check with the points. I think it's definitely possible for him to make a charge back, but it's one of those things where,
especially.
Yeah, especially with the extra points. That being said, possible doesn't mean probable.
Yes, he's going to be, I don't know what exactly the points are going to be, but I believe he might have lost about 8 points, so not official, I'm just guesstimating, but he should probably be around 53 points back going into Indy. But like you said, possible, probably not probable, but anything could happen in 200 laps and 500 miles.
Yeah, and while we wait for them to jump into the booth, we'll talk to Adam Blocker, our race winner. Adam, for you, for the most part, a fairly quiet day in the office, just getting up there and absolutely dominating, leading 42 of the 47 laps. Walk us through how you're able to get it done.
Yeah, it was good to have a race like that. I haven't had one of those for a while in this league, but first I was kind of surprised they got a pole. I knew I had pace for pole, but honestly my lap wasn't great. There was at least 2-3 tenths on the table, but so once I saw that it was pole, I was pretty confident going into the race that I would be able to, because normally I race better than I qualify, so and I had some margin, so I felt it was feeling good. And yeah, I know this track is it's pretty easy to manage from the lead in my opinion, because it really rewards just smooth driving and hitting your marks and not really like over driving, and it's a little bit easy to do that in the lead, especially once you get a little bit of a gap. You can kind of just relax and settle in.
And walk us through how you're able to manage it, because of course, with the tires, it can be difficult to manage, but you especially, you had some really, really good pace when it came down to the primary tires, to the point where Brandon Trano wasn't even able to make up any time on you on the faster alternate. So how are you able to pull that off?
So I think honestly, like our setup must have just been pretty good on blacks, because I think that was probably the difference there, if I had to say anything. But for me, honestly, once I got halfway through the red stint, I had to change my driving a decent amount. I had a couple of slower laps, and I just kind of had to readjust my driving to not kill the left front as much. So we were kind of limited. So just kind of back up a few of the corners and just try to roll speed without as much brake, which is really what I like to do anyway. So, yeah, it's just kind of a little bit of that, and made some front wing adjustments at the stops. And, yeah, we're good.
All right, well, a really solid performance with you this season. Of course, the first win of the season on a part-time schedule. Congratulations to you. Glad to see you back in victory lane.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody at Powerslide for the awesome setup, and thanks to Joe for running this league, and thanks to y'all for calling the race. And see you guys at Indy.
All right, we'll see you in Indianapolis. Thanks for talking to us, Adam.
Yep. See you.
All right, and with that, we'll be moving on to our second place finisher, Brandon Trano. And Brandon, for you, it wasn't a win, but I think you'll be very happy with the result, especially with your championship competitor finishing in behind you.
Yeah, it was a good race for us. It was just more so just trying to finish. Just kind of sitting in there in second. Got a good start on Andreas, which was the goal, because I probably could have had pole if I didn't lock up in a turn one. But just overall, just a consistent race from us, and just trying to essentially survive and move on to Indy next week.
And speaking of Indianapolis, of course, with 1.5 points extra for you guys, 90 points in total. Looking at the gaps, the point gap has it updated at 82 points separating yourself and Christian Steele. How are you feeling as far as your chance? It's not necessarily locked in at this point, but how are you feeling for your chances of securing that championship at Indy?
Yeah, I mean, the goal today was just finish out of Steele, which we accomplished. So we'll have to look at how the drop weeks are counted and see what the true gap is. But I think overall, I just need to, again, just finish the race, even if Steele were to win. So we'll focus on that. But obviously, we do want to try to win Indy. Everybody does. So yeah, we'll go there and see what car we can bring and see how it all plays out.
All right, Brandon, congratulations on your second place finish. A really solid job in your car. We'll see how you can do when it comes to Indianapolis next month.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
All right, with that, I think that'll wrap up interviews. We'll see here. We're still waiting on Andreas Ike. I know we've talked to him in the past. Let's see if we can get in touch with him before we sign off for tonight. But talking about Indianapolis again with the points. I believe they are updated with the drop weeks. If not, I might have to wait on a final calculation. But again, this is not really what we needed for Christian Steele, for him to keep that gap close.
Yeah, a Sim Racer Hub shows an 82-point gap. We won't have official word until probably after the broadcast, but either way, regardless of what the gap is, the fact is it's still a gap, and it's going to take a long charge for Christian Steele to get the championship away. He's pretty much got to set his sights on winning the Indianapolis 500 and then hope for the best, and it will be a pretty fun race. Even without the title battle, Indy is always electric, and 500 miles is going to be no different in 3 weeks' time. Pretty excited for it.
Yeah, really excited for that. E-Race usually ends up being a fantastic show for the drivers in this league. Again, going 200 laps, exactly the same as the drivers in real life, and they've been doing it for several years now, so glad to be back with them again after missing it for 2023, to see them back on the track. Again, for Brandon Trano, it's looking, even if there's a slight reset of the points, this is exactly what he needed to do out of here at Barber. Just get that car up in front. Near the front, didn't need to win it, but just make sure you made it to the finish ahead of Christian Steele.
Yeah, definitely, like you said, that's all he really had to do. He wasn't able to do that last week at Long Beach. He made a mistake, but he got away with it. He's not going to get away with it all the time, and that was, I really think, what he really wanted to do. Not only just finish the race, but he needed to finish a race mistake-free, so he knew that he could do that, and that gives him all the momentum in the world in this title battle.
All right, it doesn't look like we're going to have Andreas Ike, unfortunately, for an interview, but solid third-place finish for him, and we'll see really what's going to be in store for us. Another 3-week gap until the final race of the season will be the Indianapolis 500 from Indianapolis Motor Speedway. A big event for this series, and the final race of the season to decide the championship. We'll see how it plays out in a couple weeks' time. My name is Finney Kuna here with Connor Horn for the Indy Elite Series, and thank you so much for watching. Signing out for now.